Welcome to the EdTech Throwdown. Join us, Eric Guise and Nick Johnson, as we dive into today's best EdTech tools, tips, and practices. We do the research so you can teach your class. Remember to follow us on social media like Instagram, X, or Facebook by looking for the handle @EdTech Throwdown. Now please enjoy the show.
The EdTech Throwdown This is episode 203 called Tech Retreat, 8 more EdTech Tools for the Classroom Teacher, Part 3. In this episode, we will continue and finalize exploring a new list of EdTech tools that can enhance, engage, and save time. This is another episode you don't want to miss. Check it out.
All right, back with episode 202 Deuce. This should be our, third one of the series of Tech Retreat. So we're finally done with Tech Retreat.
Into December.
Into December 1st.
When this started, everybody, it was still Halloween, just so you know.
Yeah, so in the first two episodes, we gave you, 16 to 20 different EdTech tools and tips and tricks. We're going to finish it up with 4 here apiece. And really, when it comes down to all this stuff, is we're just hoping that one sticks. One of these tech tools you find helpful or useful, maybe not now, maybe in the future, but hopefully you're excited about one of these. And I think there's one that I'm really excited about today, and I'm looking forward to sharing. But, one more than the others, I should say. I'm excited about a couple of these, but I'm really excited about the one.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Even for us, like when we do these list shows, which are, now the last 3, including this one, have been that, we always say that to the listeners. Your goal is to just try to find one of these. Nobody should ever try to be using all of these. That'd be crazy. But the same thing happens for us. I think each episode we both end up with this is my favorite tool because it just kind of speaks to me and my personality and my students' personalities or my class and the way that I run it. So that is always our approach. And we probably don't say that often enough because it can sort of be overwhelming for teachers that listen to a show like this. You might be pretty likely to say, wow, I'm not using any of these 10 tools or these, 30 tools if you've listened to all 3 of these episodes. And that's okay, because who could do that? The answer is nobody could do that. We're just trying to show you some stuff so you find maybe 1 or 2 things. And I know for sure that I've got my favorite out of the list that I'm going to share. They're all pretty cool, but there's definitely one that's speaking to me. We hope there is one that speaks to each of you as well. With that, let's pause for a word from the Teach Better Podcast Network. And when we come back, we will start going through the final in our Tech or Treat list of EdTech tools.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. You can find out more at teachbetter.com/podcasts. Now let's get back to the episode.
All right, so we're officially back for the completion of the Tech or Treat list. Maybe I'll kick it off first, and usually I end up with my favorite one towards the end, but I think today my favorite one is actually the one that I'm going to share first with everybody, and it is called the First 5. This is my favorite tool because it helps me with something I'm particularly not good at paying attention to, which is the first 5 minutes of class and what to do with that time, how to engage kids in a way that sometimes is content related, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just a check-in, and I don't always see the value in that personally in like a planning sort of way. So it's often something that I skip. However, the times where I have been part of, like as an attendee, like a session or some sort of a training or even just a meeting where the entire thing begins with some sort of a check-in, I just love it. And I don't know why I don't do this more often for my own students, but that's what the First 5 is all about. When you click and head to their website, you're going to get the option to choose a grade level. So they have these groupings like pre-K to 1, grades 2 through 5, grades 6 through 12, pretty much your typical groupings. They also group them by area, like they've got some Spanish ones, they've got brain game ones, searchable database ones, all sorts of different categories. And just to play around with it myself, because I'm a high school teacher, I clicked on the 6 through 12 grouping, and they refresh these every day. So the ones that I'm looking at today are literally for December 1st. So you're going to get a new set every day. You can also have them emailed to you via signing up to their newsletter, which is cool. But it's just a collection of ways to start your class that day within the category that you've chosen. So this one says post a funny meme and share a good laugh with your students. So that's as simple as like find a meme and have it up on the screen when they come in, right? So easy, so simple, but it's also the kind of thing that you maybe don't always have space in your own brain to think about or plan. And if you have this newsletter coming to your inbox, or if you check out this website on a daily basis, it helps you. Here's another question. Choose one or more of the questions below to facilitate connection opportunities in your classroom. And there's an image. Most of these come with some sort of a graphic that you can download and quickly, add to your own slide or just project or something. But there's just a bunch of questions there, like share a family recipe that's a standout hit in the household. Just silly things that get people talking. This one says, greet your students at the door as they enter the classroom in a variety of different ways. And then it gives like some facts to share out. So like, certainly I would not use all of these, but there's definitely a couple of them where I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. Here's one. Study snack showdown. What's the best study snack? And then it has in the graphic that they share, there's popcorn, gummy rings, pretzels, fruit, granola bars, and so forth. That's the kind of thing I would choose because I know kids love talking snacks. The point is, this website does a simple thing, but a powerful thing, and something that I personally need to do more of. So that is called the First 5. Everybody should check that out. Sign up for their newsletter so that you can hopefully be inspired by some of these.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the first 5 minutes of class. I like to have something for the students to get settled into the classroom while I'm taking care of the attendance and passing back papers or passing out papers that we'll need for today. And anything that's going to help with that process or making something very easy for the first 5 minutes, I'm all for. So I really like that one. We'll go into my first one. It's called Tutoro. This is a platform that provides teachers with AI-generated curriculum-aligned worksheets, lesson plans, diagnostic assessments, and this is centered around math. All right, so they want to make mathematics clearer, more accessible to students. And one of the biggest features that they have is something called worked solutions, which can guide students through math problems step by step, which will help them build their autonomy and understanding of concepts and reasoning within that class. So when you go into Tutoro, it's a very clean, very simple website. And as soon as you go to it, there is a login and all that good stuff. They have some training stuff there that makes it easy to understand. But it asks you what you want to create. Do you want to create a lesson, a worksheet, an assessment, or a document? So when you click on whichever one that you want to do, it has several options there. So I clicked on worksheets. It says make the standard worksheet, a multiple choice worksheet, a procedural worksheet, an enabling worksheet, extension worksheet, or a custom worksheet. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the multiple choice or multiple worksheet. And then when you go in there, it's going to ask you your class name. I'm just going to say geometry for right now. And it asks you for your grade level. And you can select that. It's going to ask you which standards you use. In here it says Common Core, Texas, Florida, and it keeps going. I'm going to select Common Core. All right, and as you do that, it's going to start popping up your options. Do you want to talk about expression? I chose 8th grade, by the way. I should throw that in there. And Common Core. So do you want to talk about expressions and equations, functions, geometry, stats and probability, or the number system? I'm going to go to geometry. We're going to go to triangles, and I'm going to go ahead and hit next here. And as I do that, it's asking me how many questions you need. I'm going to bump this down to 3 just so it's quicker. And then you just hit generate. And when you hit generate, it takes about 20 seconds to upload. It's generating the worksheet. And, just like any AI, it takes a little bit of time. But when it's done, it gives you a nice multiple choice type of worksheet there. And you can add to it and take away from it and edit the questions and all that good stuff. Now, we have given you several of these over the past calendar year, I should say. But for me, the simplicity of this is cool. Like, I'm missing simple stuff where it's just very simple to understand. You don't have an overabundant amount of options, and you can just kind of select the bare bones. This is kind of going with your like take five, your first five thing that you just talked about. This could be used for the first five. It is very simple. It's not going to drive the lesson. Maybe it's a first five or last five, and you're off to the races.
Yeah, and I tried one of these as well that would do more than the first five. It just kind of depends what you choose, I guess. But like I clicked on one of the main options is called a lesson. And what I liked about it is I didn't have to I didn't even have to type. I just clicked a grade level. I clicked the standards I wanted to use, and like it auto-populated everything. So it's just checking boxes. And then when I was done clicking from a few options, it just pretty much made it. Like I had it make a geometry lesson where I chose skateboarding as a theme. Again, it suggested that as a good option. I didn't have to think about it, which is maybe nice depending on what you're doing or where your head's at, but it was cool. Then it went through it and made a lesson that the kids could do, and this one actually would be more all-encompassing. So that's pretty cool and worth checking out. schools.tutero.com. I'm going to throw a curveball in this whole thing and actually do 3 of my tools at once. And that's because 3 of mine today they're super similar. So I think it's an excellent time to do what we talked about at the top, which is you got to know the options so that you can choose one, right? And all of these are about videos for kids in a way that is safer than what YouTube provides. Obviously, YouTube has a ton of stuff and a ton of really great educational things. But YouTube, more than ever these days with the onset of AI and artificially created videos, is also full of a lot of nonsense and garbage. And your students might not even be allowed to watch it. I know we've run into all kinds of problems with kids not being blocked for one reason or another from being on YouTube. So that may not be a great solution. And the good news is that there's lots of other websites that do this. And chances are, most of you have heard of at least some of these before, like TeacherTube. I know that was around a while back. Perhaps now's the moment where you are reminded that TeacherTube exists, right? This is an educational video sharing website like YouTube, designed after YouTube, but specifically for teachers and students. That means it's safe and you're not going to run into at least as many issues as you would with YouTube. So that's the most common one of these 3. There's 2 others that I wanted to tell you guys about also. One is called TeachFlix. And TeachFlix, I think, is the coolest because it is modeled to look exactly like Netflix. The font is similar, at least as close as it can be without any sort of copyright infringement, I'm sure. But it looks, anyone who goes there is going to know, oh, this is trying to look like Netflix. Like when you signed into Netflix, you choose your little icon that says who's watching. They have that too, but here is where you pick a grade level, right? So I'll choose high school, and then you can choose an area like science, and it shows you just a bunch of science-themed videos. So this might be where I come to find stuff just because they're all specifically for educational purposes. And the one thing that I like about this, besides that it looks like Netflix, which is going to have that sort of like common person appeal, a lot of these are the same videos that are on YouTube. Some of like the most popular science, YouTube personalities are here. I can see that they're here because I know a lot of these individuals from searching YouTube, but they're also on TeachFlix just in like this safer environment. So I think that's my favorite of the video resources. And then I'll just throw out the third one. It's called Netflix Kids, and it's trying to do pretty much the same thing as TeachFlix. So, curating these high quality videos for children, basically, right? This one does seem to aim specifically for like health and fitness videos. So if that's something you teach, maybe you're a PE teacher, or at the younger grades, maybe that's like some sort of a learning unit that you're engaged in, you might want to check out Netflix Kids. But that's 3 video resources for everybody today: TeachFlix, TeacherTube, and NetflixKids.com. Check them all out to find the one that hopefully works for you.
Those are all solid. I mean, we need quality resources in a safe place, so I'm up for all those. And I've seen some known educators really endorsing some of these sites, so that is cool. I haven't checked them out since they first came out, but I will definitely go back in and check them out. All right, so my next one I'm really excited about. I will say it does have a little bit of limitation, but I'm very excited because I found this in the Canva App Store. So if you're working within Canva, there's an extension or an app there called Gibbly AI. And Gibbly is an AI assistant that will help teachers create curriculum-aligned lessons, presentations, and gamified quizzes in minutes. All right, so what I like about this is that you connect it to your state standards, the subject, the grade level, and you put the topic in there. All right. Now, when it comes to, I guess, all the other stuff, the information that it's actually putting on there isn't what excites me. It's the AI created slide deck that goes with that information. I find myself going in there and changing the information on the slide deck, but I really like that I was able to say, okay, let's work within the macromolecules of biology, and it was bringing up molecular structures. That was cool. And if it's able to do that and the pictures are relevant to the content, I'm okay going in there and changing it because it looks really good. Now, the limitation is this. If I ask it for, give me the general structure of an amino acid in there, it's going to give me the general structure, but then it's going to try to name it. And sometimes the names are in weird fonts and overlap a little bit. The letters overlap. So what I do with Canva is I just grab text. I use that tool and I delete it. And then I can label it if I want to, but I don't usually have to because it's already on the slide in the text form somewhere else. The other limitation is you only get to create 2 activities a day. Now, oftentimes you don't really need it more than that. But for me, I just like to see what it's going to create. I think for me, it's hard to design something staring at a blank slide. So it's going to give me that template that I'm going to be able to use and modify and change. And for the most part, the information that's on the slide is there. I just don't like the way it's worded. I think it's a little too wordy sometimes. But it does have, you could choose very brief text, medium text, or a lot of text. And I chose the medium amount of text, the middle option. So I think I would go brief next time and just make it my own text there. But that one is a really, really nice find for me. In there, when I was searching for new apps that I haven't seen before, I also found a AI voiceover, but I'm not gonna, it's in there, you could go check it out, but I'm not gonna talk about it more than just what I've already said. But I'm very excited to check that one out because I didn't see that 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago when we were making the list for tools for the episode. But as I was typing it in now, I did see it. So I'm going to go check that out. And I have a project that I'm going to need that for. I don't know if you want to talk about that one at all because I saw your eyebrows kind of raised a couple times.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. I like that it's in Canva already. I just always go back to, when I started teaching, I did make, well, I guess I did 2 things. Sometimes I made like a presentation from scratch, which was always really hard because, again, like you said, you're starting with that blank canvas, which is super difficult. Or I would go to Google and steal other teachers' things, which I always liked better because then I could change it and make it my own. But it was very stressful, right? That search was very stressful. Every Sunday night, planning out, the coming week, I would always be like, oh man, how am I going to find a video, or how am I going to find at that time it was all PowerPoint, but how am I going to find a PowerPoint slide deck that actually, covers this thing that I got to cover in chemistry, is, can be tough to find because there's not like a whole lot of stuff. At least then there wasn't a whole lot of stuff out there. But with this, all that stress would evaporate because I could just tell it what to make, still obviously edit it and make it my own, but also now it's in Canva, which would be a great platform to just get used to from the beginning because of how many different things you can do with it, right? Like the quizzing and the sharing and you name it, right? Canva's an amazing platform for educators. And maybe if you're a teacher starting out, all your presentation slide decks are right there for you to use. So this is very cool. And I know there's other options, right, for getting slide decks generated, like that Gamma AI we talked about, maybe in one of our last few episodes. I can't recall, but with something like that, then you've got the issue of where do I put it? Like, what format do I export it into? Maybe I want it to get from Gamma AI into Canva. And for all I know, that they have a way to quickly do that. But the point of this one is it's being made in Canva. So it's like, it's right there for you in a platform that is actually usable by teachers. So there's none of this like downloading, uploading game that you might have to play with other generators. So that's what caught my eye about Gibbly in Canva Apps. And it made me think we should maybe do another episode on Canva Apps specifically, because that is an ever-changing universe with just tons of cool stuff. And this was a good reminder of that for me.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of apps being added all the time on there, which is really cool. So the next one, we haven't talked about this one in a while, but we did talk about it a couple of years ago. And the reason why it came back up is because I saw my two younger sons playing a game on this site. And the site is called bamboozle.com. I loved this site 2 years ago, still love it. The games, it's a gamified website. It allows you to gamify everything very, very easily. There's a basic free plan that it says will be free forever. And that goes with some of the games that are on there. And it looks like some of them are available, some of them are advanced only, but I think the available ones are pretty solid. A couple of things I like about this site: super easy to use, has some of our favorite games. They have their own versions of like Chutes and Ladders and some other things, and it's very easy to customize the games. So when I go into their game platform where it has like a community of games, you see things in here based on almost every single topic. It's organized in an easy way for you to find them. There is a way for you to search for games. So one of my favorite ones to play on these types of sites are logos. And when I typed in logo, there's like brand logo. Here, you just have to guess the product's logo, brand, and see if you know a few of the brand facts that go with it. So there's a lot of really, really good ones here. This could be used for the first five, last five. There's a lot of holiday games in here. So if you have that weird day where there's only like 15-minute classes and everyone meets on a half day, maybe you can find something in there. There's discussion things. There's a game called Pros and Cons. It gives you a topic and you discuss the pros and cons just as a warm-up. And then there's some content-specific games in there as well. There's several different gaming types that you can add. You can make your own. You could edit or make a copy of others and edit that. But go over and check out bamboozle.com just as another very simplified way of adding gamification to your curriculum.
Yeah, I forgot about this one. And what we always, because we used to talk about this a lot, what we like about it is, at least in the free version you don't have to pay for, it puts the kids in these giant teams, right? So it allows you a 2-team max, which is kind of a fun way to play, and not the way they typically play, like the teachers that want to do Kahoot or quizzes now Wayground. It's like every kid playing for themselves, and then their face is just buried in their own phone or Chromebook or whatever. And that's obviously great and has a purpose, but this is cool too, actually getting kids on a team of like, these 12 versus those 12, and they got to all confer with each other or choose roles, or I don't know, however you want to do it. But that's sort of how Bamboozle is played on the free version, at least. Now, there's other ways to play. I don't want to limit it to that. But I kind of think that's what's always been great about Bamboozle is that two teams element to it, and I'm glad to know that it's still out there kicking.
Yeah, I think it's just a great site, and you know that I'm all for gamification in education, so pretty cool. Let's get into my last one, and then we'll wrap it up. This one is called classroomzen.com. Basically, keeping with our pseudo theme of like first five, last five. This is a good website for you to help with noise management. There's some breathing exercises, typing practice, spelling and vocab type stuff on here. These are the brain breaks. There's a lot of brain breaks in there. Things like that on this. True or false, would you rather? And then you can go straight into some brain breaks there. But there's a lot of things here for self-care. Sometimes you just need that 5-minute transition between activities, and doing one of these as you're getting set up. I know in science, when we're doing a demo, I like to clean up the demo when it's done because usually there's glassware there. We need that area for lab stations right after that. So maybe you give them a 5-minute brain break, or you give them some type of little mindless discussion tool just to hold their attention while you set up for the next activity and transition into that activity.
Yep, Classroom Zen is great, and all these tools are great. Hopefully one of them appealed to you like we talked about, but that does wrap it up for episode 203. That also wraps it up for, this whole series, our Tech or Treat series. We hope everybody got, some great tools to bring into their classroom, but we're going to officially close this one out, and we'll be back in a couple weeks with something completely different. As always, thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to the EdTech Throwdown. Do us a couple of favors. Subscribe to our podcast on any major podcast catcher such as Apple, Spotify, Amazon Podcast, and Stitcher. Go over to YouTube, search the EdTech Throwdown, subscribe to the channel. You can connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. The show's handle is EdTech Throwdown. You can connect with Guise at GuiseGotTech, Nick at NickGotTech. You can write us an Apple Podcast review. You can tell your friends about www.edtechthrowdown.com. And lastly, go over and check out our friends over at the Teach Better Podcast Network, a network that we are so proudly involved with. Until next time, remember, go try some EdTech because we will do the research so you can teach your class.